But some of that music is good, actually.
All right, fine. Play some blues.
Yeah, they don't even have blues. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another special Friday night edition of Manny Behind the Mic. Trying to find some of this generic music to play for you guys.
Jello, jello, jello. How
See what
is
we got.
everybody out there in Streamland? Hopefully tonight will be dreamland for me because I haven't been sleeping well lately. Hello, Cherie.
Oh, so you're gonna really crash tonight.
Yeah, making my cocktails a little extra strong just to make sure that I get some sleep tonight because I literally last night I think I had all of an hour of sleep. I mean, at 3 o'clock this morning, I'm like, why the fuck can I not get any sleep? So I decided to make myself a drink. I'm like, fine, I'll make myself a drink that'll put me to sleep. Nothing. I'm still up at 7 o'clock in the damn morning. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I don't know what's going on with my sleep schedule.
You
So
need a
yeah.
rum and coke. You need a couple of rum and cokes for before bedtime.
Well, and uh, that's what it might be because I quit drinking for the longest time, and now I guess I'm going to have to start drinking again.
So tonight
I
we've
mean,
got.
I'm sure my liver only loves me for it, but
Yeah, I'm sure it will. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have got Jackie and Johnny. Um, I'm going to say Gonzalez and Perfect. And they are. I had them on a few months ago. They were telling the story of their uh, baby. Their name is Journey. Who and
the
then we got
three
into
J's.
it's got to do with CPS and all the nasty stuff that's really going on over there. Really unjust. And but
Jackie, Johnny, and Journey, the
Jackie,
three
Johnny, and Journey,
J's.
yeah, awesome, right?
I like it.
And so yeah, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna recap for those of you because we got a lot of new viewers now. We're gonna recap on kind of what that whole story is. Well, an update as to what's going on now, and then update you to what's happening currently. Um, currently with well, we'll just get to it. Everyone, thank you for joining in. I did post the first interview we had with them. I did post that earlier in the week. Hopefully, some of you got to see that, and it'll give you some insight as to what we're going to discuss tonight. And let's bring on John. Johnny, how you doing?
Hi, gentlemen. Good afternoon.
Hey, John.
Right? How you doing this Friday evening?
Good.
I'll bring Jack. I'll pop her in when she's ready. Oh, there
Sounds
you go.
good.
You ready, Jackie?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hi there, everyone. Welcome the Jackie and Johnny Rodriguez. I'm sorry,
Gonzalez.
Gonzalez. I don't know why I've been saying Rodriguez. I said that earlier too, Rodriguez. Gonzalez. And so you guys were here a few months ago. And
Yeah,
you
it's been
tell me-
about 6 months.
right.
Yeah.
It was just before. Hey, was it after? Was it this year? Early this year? I thought it was before the holidays. I could have swore it was before the holidays.
I'm not sure. I'd have to recap on that.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and check.
Yeah.
In any case, it's been quite a few months, so
Mhm.
you guys have had a lot going on. So this all started with I don't know. Where do you guys want to start? We don't. If you don't want to get total details, we don't have to. We can kind of recap on how this started. But you have a baby named Journey.
Yeah. Well, I can start from the beginning and go real quickly through
Sure.
for those that don't know the whole situation because it all kind of ties together with our current situation.
Yeah.
But in August of 2020, we were on vacation with our 10-month-old and his two older siblings who happened to be named Jaden and Jaden.
Oh, more
And-
J's. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, and on the first night there, Journey woke up the next morning really lethargic, and so we took him to an emergency room where he was seen, and procedures were done to identify what was occurring with him. And he had a low glucose level and was experiencing some negative symptoms. So he was transferred to a children's hospital.
Hmm.
And when this had happened, CPS had gotten involved, and within that same day, we were accused of abuse and neglecting him, and he was detained at the hospital, which led to the start of a what in California they describe it as a juvenile proceeding, which was our first introduction to court. So he was taken from us. We were dragged through the juvenile process. We were forced attorneys onto us.
And how old is he at this point?
Right now he is, Mama, well, he's going to be 3.
Okay. And when this happened?
He was 10 months at the time.
Okay.
So those that are not familiar with how CPS is conducted in the procedural process, they take you through a series of hearings, beginning with the detention hearing. After the detention is established, then it goes to a jurisdiction and disposition hearing, where the quote unquote child, which is a terminology that they use, which any parents out there don't want to get involved with that legalese BS. This is where they establish jurisdiction and begin to enforce a family reunification / plan for the families. And this is where they offer you all the services, and they have you jump through all their rings thinking that you're going to get your kids back. Well, at the time, I knew from the start that this was all wrong. So I didn't listen to anything that they said. I was completely against what was happening. And mother being, a mother, she felt she would comply and do everything they said and jump through all the loops, take all the classes, which, fast forward, none of that was relevant. We were demonized as parents. We were demonized for our beliefs and our lifestyle, and that never slowed down, not from the beginning to the end.
Okay, so if I can real quick inject, so the lifestyle that we're talking about is you guys are vegan, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So yeah.
So that information, our personal preference of lifestyle did trigger an alarm with them. But, as I continue the story, the merits of the case and what happened get less and less significant, because we're dealing with the corrupted system that is doing this day in, day out with no cause. There is no cause of action. There is nothing that's happening typically. And it's taken me down a huge rabbit hole of education. And I've opened up doors and windows to really expand on what's actually happening and how often this is happening, and just trying to find a remedy. So once you go through the juris and dispositional hearings, jurisdiction's already established. So those parents that go through that process, the only hearing that's left is as a termination of the parental termination rights hearing, which, looking back, hindsight, I realized at that point that the state or the county or the CWS or CPS, whatever it's called in your state,
Yeah.
they already have their teeth inside of the prey. And the prey is the prey is the offspring. And you got to ask why. Well, what's the purpose behind this? And then you start to Google it, and you start to pull up different stories and different sites that give off bits and pieces of information, and pretty soon you start to wrap your hands around that this is because of money. Sad to say, but at the same time, of course it's about money. Now, these agencies operate from grants, they operate from state funding, county funding, and federal funding. And based off of the plan that is established, this is why it's so common that when a kid is taken away, they want to place them with somebody else, because that brings in more accessible funds for the county and for this process. Well, by the time we even started to really pick up what was happening, the damage was already too deep. It was too significant. Our county our case generated from the county that we were vacationing on, which was Orange County in California. And after the juris dispositional hearing, it was transferred to our county, which is Tulare County. Mm-hmm. Now, when we got to Tulare County, it was completely different as far as the dynamics of the court process. The judge did not force an attorney onto us. And in Orange County, I went through 5 different attorneys trying to get rid of the attorney, but the judge kept putting an attorney on me. And, I'll always go back hindsight to point out, I see why they did that. I see the purpose and the significance, because the attorneys are on their side. Even if they're a defense attorney, even they're for the parents and for the child, no, they're all on the same side. The Bar Association, the British accreditor, excuse me. So the Bar Association is what's the problem in our nation? They're behind every contract, they're behind every deal, they're behind every negotiation, every suit, every crime, everything that involves anything. There's always involvement of an attorney. So by the time we got to Tulare County, it was already over and done with. We didn't even have an opportunity or a chance. Our parental rights were terminated with Journey in December of 2021. Now, at this time, it became really personal. Like, I'm not saying it wasn't personal before, but now it was. Our son really is not our son according to paper. We weren't able to access his records. We weren't able to have any significance of purpose in anything involved in his life whatsoever.
Even visiting, were you able to see him at all? Or
No. Visitation was completely removed, and as I said, on paper, it's almost like a restraining order. Like, we're not allowed to see him, talk to him, engage with him, have any part in his life, pending the appeal process. Yeah, definitely. So at this time,
real quick, I apologize, everyone. I'm going to get to your questions. I'm flagging them all, and we're going to get to these as soon as he tells the bulk of his story. So I promise we're going to get to your comments and questions.
Cool, okay, cool. Yeah. So, so we lost the parental rights at this point, and by this time, I'm becoming more familiarized with CPS and the funding process. And so I did, I try to invest as much time as I could to finding people who have had success, who have gone through this system, who have worked with families. And I was able to meet a bunch of people that, had the knowledge and had some insight. And I also met some quacks. I mean, sad to say, I'm going to say it, but I met some people that wanted to do some random things that it just didn't sit well. It didn't sit well with me, but that's a part of the process. Bruce Lee always says, you take from others and you take what is useful for you and you apply that. So that's kind of what I did. And I think when I found, and I'm pretty sure that you have had Pamela on your show before multiple times. To be honest, I think that's where I found Pamela, was from your show.
Yep.
And she provided a lot of insight. She provided a lot of material that was very, very useful and helpful during my process of education. Sadly, I know she experienced a loss, and I lost contact with her after she was going through some personal matters with her life. Pamela, if you watch that a future day, I miss you, and I hope everything's well, and I love you, and I appreciate everything that you've done to assist my growth in this process. So this is the part where it starts to tense up a little bit, because we were also charged criminally.
Okay, so let's back up just a little bit for the sake of those who really don't know what's going on, except
Yeah.
So baby Journey is sick. You go to the children's hospital, and is that where you lost custody? I mean, from that spot right there, or did they actually later come to your house? And
No. We went to the emergency room, and he had a full panel of tests done. A full report was done and given. He was seen by a doctor and all the physicians. Nothing was an issue. In the reports, it stated he was well developed, he was well nourished, and although he was experiencing symptoms, they felt that everything was in control. But because of the setting and because of his age, they transferred him to a children's hospital. Okay. Now, when he was transferred to the children's hospital, this is where CPS came on site, began to do what they do, fabricate a bunch of material based off of limited information. Then they get to draw and create the narrative. And at this point, you're having all these reports that are being generated that basically attack the credibility and the well being of the parents with the parent-child relationship. And it's very demonizing, because it's happening more than it's not happening.
So
sure.
what was the justification saying? I mean, against you, that they were saying he was sick because of you?
Correct. Well, the diagnosis from the doctor who oversaw him, who happened to also be the doctor that is the Chalk Hospital CPS medical doctor. She happened to also be the doctor that oversaw him. Now, as I mentioned about the hindsight, again, everything makes sense. Why did she come up with that diagnosis? What's the purpose? What's the significance? What is she, without having an extensive amount of tests done or days to consult with other doctors and to actually go through a process to identify? It was immediately within a few hours identified as he was severely malnourished, and basically we starved him. That was the narrative that was created, and all the reports that were generated was that we were these horrible parents because we starved him and we didn't feed him, and it looked like he was on the smallest scale of weight, and all of these fabricated, manufactured hearsay allegations. None of it had no grounds of having firsthand witnesses or firsthand knowledge. As I mentioned, this was all based off of the report of one doctor, which the doctor that saw Journey just a few hours prior to that had absolutely nothing to say negatively about what was occurring and what was happening, except that, yes, Journey was experiencing symptoms. He was going through a process that needed a medical attention. But for the conclusion to be drawn so quickly, you can't help but ask why. And again, when you start to identify the CPS process and how this medical kidnapping is what it's termed nowadays, is there's grant money that's involved in all of this that is happening behind the curtains that the public doesn't know anything about. And Pam also brought this out because she was also a nurse for many years, was that CPS agents, they're hunting, they're looking, they're praying, they're looking for parents or single moms that have infants or young kids, trying to identify them, trying to go after the culture that is not wealthy, that doesn't have the means to support themselves, that would be a little bit more compliant with giving up their own kid and going through the process and jumping through all their loops and thinking that they're going to have a chance to win in the end. But that's not the case for most. It's not the case at all.
Gotcha. Hi, Moxie. Hey, everyone. Yes, we will get to your questions and your comments. We are speaking with Johnny, who is it okay if I put a picture up of Journey? Do you mind that at all?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is Journey, right? I got the right photo?
Yeah, that's Journey. He was a little baby right there.
This is baby Journey, and he fell ill one day. They took him to the doctor, took him to the hospital, then they transferred him to a children's hospital. And a CPS doctor decided on very little research, not anything extensive, that the family, tell me if I'm wrong, but basically that you were being abusive to him.
Yeah, we were neglecting him, basically, is what their term is. Yeah.
So he was sick. Okay, now how did okay, you know what? Just pick up to where you were at. So at this point, they did take him away from there. I mean, you never got a chance from there, or did you go home and then they eventually came to your home? How did that work?
No. He was detained at the children's hospital. He was hospitalized for 30 days. At that point, he was placed in a foster home, and he remained in the foster home until he was put with a foster parent, and that's where he's at currently right now.
So he's okay now. So what they're trying to do is really go there and saying that you were so neglectful, and they want to put you guys in jail, right?
Correct. 20 days later, after the incident occurred, we were forced to stay in Orange County because our county is about 4 hours away. So we stayed a whole month in Orange County, basically living in a hotel and going to have supervised visits for Journey for 2 hours a day? 2 hours a day. So, we stayed there because, that's our baby. And I mean, it's very troublesome because of the fact that I know that so many parents go through something similar, and they're ripped apart from their babies and told that they're the worst parents and they've done so much harm, and because of that we got to take them away from you because you're so bad of a parent. And this rips any parent apart completely. And we were arrested while going to a visit. We were charged with in California it's 273A, which is child abuse and neglect, and we had an enhancement to that because of his age, and because of his age they said that we caused great bodily harm to him as well. And so we were pending a criminal trial. So Journey was removed in December of 2021, and in February of 2022, we had our criminal trial. Now, at this point in time, as I said, I really dove deep into comprehending the legal process. Now, those that are not familiar with, anything pertaining to law, each state has their own state constitution. The federal constitutions for the nation, and below the state constitution, you have codes. You have your vehicle code. In California, it's called the penal code. You have your family code. You have your criminal code. You have all these different statutes, codes, and ordinances that are applicable to your state. Each of them has their own version of what I'm describing right now. So at this point in time, I was focused primarily on the juvenile process because that's what I was going through. However, because we were charged with a felony, which at the time it carried 20 years, and it was very severe. So I was fortunate enough to have some assistance. I had guys that have been studying law and have been assisting and helping people with issues of criminal in nature and child support primarily. And I kind of felt I had a backbone with these individuals who kept me strong, who kept me confident moving forward. And so when the criminal trial approached, I told Jackie, I was like, we have to do this without an attorney, because at the time she had a criminal attorney. And again, this is first instinct. A parent gets their kid taken away, get an attorney. Something happens, I get involved in a situation criminally, I got to get an attorney. That's the first instinct, because that's what we're trained and programmed to believe.
Yeah.
But this may put a little sting in a lot of people's thought process, but you don't want to mess with attorneys. Okay? Attorneys are not your friend. Attorneys are not there to hold your hand and protect you and make sure nothing happens to you. They're not there to protect your rights. They have an oath to the bar. They have an oath and support to the court and their fellow brethrens. And then in a far distant third place, they have the client.
Yeah.
So I felt confident moving forward without an attorney. And so when we got to trial, they merged our cases back together because they had separated our cases because she had the assistance of counsel. And what ended up happening is she dumped her attorney and we formed back together. They jointed the case and we both went forward and proprio persona without an attorney. And we decided, you know what, we're going to handle this head on. Let's take the gloves off and let's get serious. So that's what happened. And just to, Jackie wanted me to point this out because this is it's almost like a car salesman's little pickup line or their little go-to. And what happens so let's say you want to retain an attorney. Okay. So you retain an attorney and the attorney says, well, I'll take your case. Yeah. You could pay $2,500, or let's say you pay $5,000.
Yeah.
They'll take you through arraignment. They'll take you through the proceedings. Maybe they'll do a couple motions. Maybe they'll go through the process. There's a couple continuances. And pretty soon by the third or fourth hearing, you're like, what are you going to do? Are you going to do anything? And I know at a future day when people listen to this that have dealt with attorneys, they're like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what had happened to me. And then you start to realize the attorney's not doing anything. So then he comes back to you and he says, okay, so I got this sweet deal from the DA, and if you just plead to this charge or this misdemeanor, or you plead to this, we're gonna drop it. We're gonna minimize the charges, or we're gonna reduce the jail time. And because of fear, most of the time it's like, okay, I'll take the plea deal. I'll take the plea deal. And what happens if you don't take the plea deal is the attorney's like, okay, so I tried my best to try to help you and assist you, but we weren't able to come up with a negotiation, so we're going to have to go to trial. So in order for us to go to trial, I'm going to need about $100,000 to get through trial.
Holy
And
crap.
this is exactly what her criminal attorney told her. And so at that point, I said, look, you saw what he did do or what he didn't do, and you saw it didn't work, and you're still in the same boat that I'm in, and I didn't have an attorney the whole time. So we decided to merge together, take this on head on, and that's what we did. So we went to trial, and the trial lasted about a week and a half, 2 weeks. And for the most part, I felt very confident with the trial. Now, there were some key components that I did miss, such as discovery, there were some discovery tools that I could have used that could have helped us. There was also the means of getting admissible evidence into the record. That was another concept that I didn't really grasp fully at the time. And because of that, it left out a lot of information. For example, we were not able to admit into admissible evidence the report created by the first emergency room doctor. It was a 14-page extensive report, which, as I said earlier in the podcast, that he was well developed, he was well nourished, he was balanced in his development, and there was no record of significance of worry or any forms of biased information about what caused his situation. So that wasn't admitted into evidence. So the jury wasn't able to see any of that. And then along with that, I wasn't able to get into the record all of his previous doctor reports from 0 months to 10 months prior to that, or 0 months to 9 months. None of that was admitted into the record. Along with that, we weren't able to get into the record videos of him playing, of him engaging, of him eating, of him just being a little baby at 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months.
Oh, they just not allow it, or what was the deal there?
Yes. So you this is important. So I'm not giving legal advice. I'm simply sharing my experiences, and sometimes experience could be a way better teacher than a book can. And so when you're going to trial, or when you're going through any proceedings, there's elements of procedure that have to occur. And by the time you get to trial, you have to reestablish the evidence, admissible evidence. So you have to get that into the record in order for the jury to take into consideration for use for deliberation. Now, again, without really expressing too much, I'll just say it like this. I just dropped the ball. I'm not even gonna try to blame the judge or because the judge is not there to basically, the judge is supposed to be there to be to host a battle. When we go to court, you're playing a match with the prosecutor.
Yeah.
And you're playing back and forth. He's just there as basically a judge, an umpire. He's calling balls and he's calling strikes. And so when I wasn't getting my evidence into the record, he's not going to tell me, hey, John, you need to do this, this, and this, get your evidence in. Otherwise, it's not going to be admissible. The jury's not going to see it. Yeah. So I didn't really have that knowledge prior to that. So we, as I said, I dropped the ball a little bit on that part. But at the end of the day, when deliberation occurred, the jury came back and it was a hung jury, 6-6, and they were not gonna budge. They were not gonna budge on that. No amount of deliberation was gonna change the outcome of what these jurors believed, and because of that, they declared it a mistrial, a hung jury. So this is where that was in February. Okay.
Just this past February.
It's just, February 2022. So we just had that hung jury, and we find out within a week or two. Well, actually, it was literally the same day of the hearing that the DA said, well, we're going to retry the case. But I remember saying, don't you got to speak to your superiors before you decide whether you could retry the case? Because remember, this is not mock trial.
Yeah.
This is the taxpayers' dollars that are being used right here. Yep. They're having to pay for all of this. They're having to pay for the proceedings, all of the people that are associated with it, and then on top of that, that budget's, that a portion of that, or a big majority of that, is coming from the district attorney's office. So what ended up happening was the attorney who, when I first encountered with him, told me that he had 20 plus years of experience and he's never lost a case. And I was stepping into his world, and he didn't want me to think that he wanted me to understand that this is his playing field, and that he's doing his job and he's going to have to take me out, basically. So a mistrial, that's a loss for him. And I remember, not only did we never hear from him again, nor they took him off the case. They took him off the case completely. But there was feedback from the attorney circle, because Jacqueline's attorney at the time had, connections to the people, they all work together. So it's not like, they're not friendly, but the word circulated that this DA went down. Mm. So they brought the A team in, apparently, with this new prosecutor that they have, who's a deputy prosecutor. And so we've been pending that. And this is the part where it takes another twist. Here we're going down a different rabbit hole, because during this time frame, Jacqueline was pregnant. Mm. And we didn't find out till maybe she was probably already 5 months or so, because she didn't go to the doctor there. There was no signs of that or anything until she started to really show. And then it was like, uh-oh, okay, well, let's go with it. So we were preparing for that, and we didn't disclose this information to our family members or our friends or anybody. Mm. And when her due date was sometime in April. Well, we had a hearing date on April. Let me see. We had the hearing date on April. Was it April 3rd? No, April 5th, huh? Yeah. So we had our baby at home. Perfect home birth. Everything went well. And I remember while I was delivering our baby, I thought it was a boy. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, we got a new little boy. And then I realized that it wasn't a boy, it was a little girl. So we called her Genesis, New Beginning. Mm. And so we, at that time, knew we had a hearing coming up. And it happened on April 5th. So April 5th, I drive to Orange County, and I request for a continuance because the trial was supposed to start at this time. So what ended up happening was I go get a continuance. By the time I get back into town, because I drove there and drove right back, CPS was already here at my house. Yes. And I remember walking to my door, and the officer and an accompanied CPS investigator were walking my way. And the officer said, "Hey, Johnny, let's have a conversation." I said, no, that's not going to happen. I'm not going to talk to you, and I'm definitely not going to talk to them. So you can go ahead and be on your way. So they stood out there for a little bit. They left. And apparently they went and they got a administrative protective custody warrant, which they attempted to go to Jacqueline's house, and the officers just entered her house. We're looking for Jacqueline and our baby. And that happened on April 6th. Well, on April 7th is when they finally made contact. And at 4 days old, with no warrant given at this time, until the removal of our baby, they took her. So they took her, gave us the protective custody warrant, and basically the probable cause and the grounds for taking her were because they received an anonymous call that we had a home birth, and we had and that basically they use in the WIC code, which is the juvenile code in California. It's under the 300 section. So it's WIC 300J, which basically states that if a parent loses parental rights of a child previously, or there are some forms of abuse or neglect in a previous case, that gives them grounds, according to their standards, to go and take a sibling. Now, at this point in time, I'm well rehearsed in the juvenile code. I'm well rehearsed in the proper steps and procedures. And so when we start the process, I was able to put an immediate halt on the process, which we haven't even gone to jurisdictional process of hearing yet, because of the fact that there have been so many continuances. Now, with that being said, I also sent the county and each investigator involved a notice of intent to sue. I've informed them of my intent to also file criminal complaints against them, and I have begun to already draft my suits for these individuals. Along with that, I've also have reached out to the county and have done some behind the door or behind the curtains work towards accessing the funds that allocate the codes. So these codes are supported by the funds that give them the authority. So if you think about it like this, the reason why they take the kids is because they're profiting from it. When somebody gets charged with a crime, there's always a fee behind that crime. There's always a price tag on it. So everything is commerce. Everything works around the money scheme. That's all that this is all about. The United States, all upper caps, is a corporation. The courts, the state of California, the state of Texas, those are all corporations. These counties and these agencies are all for-profit organizations that are building and creating revenue for the counties, for the state, and essentially for the federal government. Now, this is where I've expanded on approaches towards battling these individuals, but at the same time, I'm very considerate to the fact that the solution to this is around the corner, and I really feel that I really feel at this point in time, despite what has happened, despite what has happened, I look at it like from a warrior's perspective. You can't be a great warrior unless you fight some good adversaries.
Yeah.
You can't go up in the ranks unless you have the good battles. And the ones that go through the battles and keep battling, those are the ones that you respect. Those are the ones that will be remembered.
Yeah.
And this is exactly how I view that, where I've lost that fear towards these agencies and these proceedings. I've had the experience to go to court and to battle for my family. And I also have the experience to know that these administrative tribunal processes, they're literally, they're not court. Those families that will go to these court proceedings, you have to understand it's not a real judicial process. It's an administrative process. It may look like court. They may act like it's court, but it's not a court. They maybe even have a record of the proceedings, but it's still not a court. There's that big gap of ignorance because we're not given this knowledge. This knowledge wasn't provided to us, and it wasn't provided to our parents and grandparents. And because of that, this is kind of why the quote unquote state has kind of had this form of I'm not going to reveal too much about this, but this will kind of at least open up the blinders a little bit for the people. The state operates through a doctrine called parens patriae, which basically means that the state is the father. So if the state is the father, that puts us in a guardian position as a minor. So if we're considered minors, then we don't have that authority or that credibility in these courts or through these proceedings to really stand on our rights. So if a little kid comes up to you and says, hey, you got to live like this and do this, this, and this, a little 5-6-year-old kid, you're not going to take into consideration what they're saying if you're a grown adult, because they're little kids. So that's exactly what I've discovered is how these courts operate.
Yeah.
We're these wards, we're these little minors that have no say, that have no rights, that have it's called disabilities of the minor account, minority disabilities. And when that viewpoint is looked at from that perspective, this is why you go to court and you could try to file all these documents, and you could try to stand on your rights and say, this is a violation of my 6th Amendment right. This is the violation of my 14th Amendment right. This is, you can't do this. And I want to challenge jurisdiction. You're doing all these things, but they're just, go ahead. You want to vent, go ahead and vent, because it makes no difference. And this is exactly what I've experienced and have gone through to understand. So when it comes to comprehending the process, you got to know the rules and the procedures, but at the same time, you still got to look outside the box for a solution. And that's kind of where we're at right now, in preparation for this upcoming trial with the criminal matter.
Yeah.
We were able to find a good criminal investigator who said, you know what, after reviewing your record and reviewing all the reports, these guys did not do a proper job of investigation. They went based off of solely the CPS reports. They didn't do their fair and impartial investigation, and you got screwed. Along with that, he opened up another alternative of a diagnosis of what could have happened to Journey, which this has more relevance than anything that has been presented to us thus far, is that a condition due to positional asphyxiation, which basically is a form of suffocation, which basically causes hypoxia in the brain. It causes metabolic acidosis of the body, and it could lead to seizures. Now, every single symptom that I just described is a symptom due to positional asphyxiation. And because of that, we invested in we've invested into a medical expert who's going to give a secondary opinion to the CPS doctor. And
how does that happen? Positional asphyxia.
Yeah, positional asphyxiation basically means that, so for example, it's very common, let's say a baby's in their crib and they have a blanket over their head and they're not able to move that blanket, so they basically just suffocate. That right there makes a lot of sense, because when, mind you, I didn't have any knowledge of this specific condition, but after our criminal investigator reviewed the report, he said, you know what, Johnny, I want to throw this out there because I'm just looking at the medical report and I'm looking at the symptoms and everything. And I had an opportunity, because at the time the criminal investigator was on vacation and he was visiting his family in Las Vegas, and his brother happens to be a pharmaceuticalist pediatrician. So he provides medicine for little kids. So he works with little kids and infants. So his brother reviewed the record, didn't have any background of Journey's story, didn't know any of the details. All he had were his medical report.
Yeah.
And his medical reports, after reviewing them, he basically said, wow, you know what? This kid suffocated. All of the symptoms he was experiencing were due to a form of suffocation. And when he said that, I had like almost an instantaneous flashback of that night going to sleep with Journey. We were in a different hotel. Journey was sleeping in the middle between me and Mother. And I remember in the middle of the night, because it was freezing cold, I got the blanket and I threw it over us, not really even considering that the blankets were like those real soft, fluffy ones, but kind of dense.
Yeah.
That could have very easily just gone over his face. I could have smothered him and would have never even knew it. So that sounds more logical of what could have occurred than saying that the day before, Journey's perfectly fine, eating normal, perfectly happy, having fun. 2 days before, we're at an event for my restaurant. He's being held and carried around by, a dozen people. And the whole week prior, no symptoms, no problems. To say that and to go through that, and then on the day that this happens, just to say, oh, well, he was starved for days by people who never saw him before that, who had no background history to even make those accusations. So that's where we're sitting right now with that process. The juvenile process has just been continued, and I know why. I do know why, but at the same time, the Tulare County has been getting a heavy dose because of Journey's situation. Tulare County got the back end of all of this because Orange County basically made all the accusations, profited from all of this, and then threw it down after it was already determined back to Tulare County.
So what is your situation with Genesis right now?
So can you pass that water for me, please? So right now with Genesis, she is currently with the foster parent who has Journey.
All right. And who is that foster parent?
Well,
And I know that's another twist to all this.
yeah, that's another twist. The foster parent is my mother. She's my mother. So lo and behold, my kids are safe with my mother right now. And I'll just leave it at that. Those that want to go back and listen to the first interview, there's a lot more said about that situation.
Yeah,
But
there is.
But here's another but of this. I'm not even going to give it any attention on what's happening with Genesis. I'm not going to give the situation and her the energy to even speak on it, because it's okay. It's okay. I look at it as, like I described it, as a warrior perspective. If I'm going to war and I'm battling some adversaries, I don't want my family around me. I want them as far away from me as possible, because if anything were to happen to them while they're with me, that I couldn't hold that. I wouldn't be able to live with myself because of that. So right now they're safe. They're being taken care of to the best of their caretaker's ability,
Yeah.
and I'm content with that.
Okay. So go ahead. No, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna finish with saying that, and let us battle this out. Let us fix. Let us make right the wrongs, and at the end of the story, we'll ride away in the sunset.
Gotcha. So we're gonna get to somebody's question. They've been on here since we first got online. How much of this was the baby living vegan? How much of any of these complaints or whatever were because they said, well, you're feeding him a vegan diet and that's why he got sick or whatever?
So think about this. The baby's 10 months. The baby's 10 months. Okay. He's not having T-bone steaks and bagels and experimenting with all these food. He's having baby food. He's having fruits. He's having mashed up vegetation. He's having breast milk. He's having a bottle. I mean, it's real basic. 3 or 4 or 5. Okay, I can see there could be some consideration of maybe uninformed people, because we live in a world where predominantly meat is acceptable.
Yeah.
A standard American diet is acceptable. So I'm not going to debate or argue or try to reason with anybody that doesn't have an intellectual background to see beyond that. But all babies are vegan, if you think about it, unless they're given milk formula. But even at that, you could say they're vegetarian.
Right.
You don't really start to consider what type of background of nutrition you're going to have until you become 2, 3, and you start actually adopting to eating solid foods predominantly.
Yeah. So I guess what they're asking is, was that a complaint from someone that, oh, they're vegan, so that baby's not getting the right
Correct.
nutrition?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
there
was
the
no
assumption.
evidence to support that.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Next question. Was the baby meeting all of the growth markers for his age?
So growth markers are generated through the World Health Organization and the CDC. Now, both of those organizations are also the organization that said you need to wear a goddamn mask 24/7, and you need to go and get vaccinated, and you need to have 10 booster shots, and you need to be indoors, and you need to be doing all this crazy shit. Those are the same people that are saying, oh, your baby should be this much or weigh this much. So again, going back to the credibility of those growth markers, you cannot identify a health of an infant or a baby based off of weight.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why they have growth markers is because it promotes eating. They're indoctrinating infants and parents to feed their child continuously every 2 hours, all day long, because they have to grow to be a certain size and weight. You take a baby that is eating 6 times a day compared to a baby that's eating 3 times a day, there will be a significance and difference in weight. So in our situation, our baby was, according to their standards, he was below the percentile that is correct according to their standards. But you know, it's like, how do I see?
He looks really good right there. I mean,
he always looked very healthy and very good. Super attentive, had super high awareness, very, very social. His comprehension levels was at a different, it was way different. And mind you, I have 5 kids, so I got to see all of my babies grow up, and Journey was by far the most developed mentally. So again, I'm not going to debate or argue about the viewpoints of that, because I saw my baby every day. And anybody that knows me on a personal level knows that I nurtured and cared for him like no other. We both did, Mother and I.
Gotcha. I imagine you had a pediatrician already when all this went going down.
He did have a primary physician that was seeing him. In fact, they saw him, the last day that they saw him was July 13th, mid July. And at the time, we were scheduling to go see a nutritionist just for precautionary reasons.
Yeah.
And that's when the whole COVID BS started happening, and they closed everything down. And so we didn't get an opportunity to go through there. But before all this happened.
Gotcha. Here we got a question. Hold the fork. If an attorney was assigned, yes, but if you hired yourself as an attorney, then you would have had a chance. But again, I don't know all the pieces.
Yeah, that's a misconception. I mean, you again, we all have free will, and I'm not giving legal advice, and I'm not saying that I know it all. I'm definitely not even in that category to even consider myself. However, I do know that I have invested quite a bit of time into discovering and learning on a personal level, and I have an issue with knowing the role of an attorney. Look at the root meaning of attorney. It's to attorn, to take from another and give to another. They're taking from us and giving to the state. You know, they have an oath to the bar. They have an oath to the court. You know, their allegiance is not to we the people. A lawyer is a law sayer. A law sayer is what establishment, what in common law language, is someone that stands and knows their own rights. We're all lawyers, and that's how it should be. You cannot take a lawyer into a common law court. You have to stand for yourself. And that's kind of where, you know, I'm an advocate of that. And maybe you can have assistance of counsel, but there's a difference between having assistance of counsel and then you being a representation by an attorney. Because once you have an attorney, you're deemed a ward to the state. You're deemed incompetent. Mm-hmm. They don't tell you this information. So you're deemed a ward of the state, and that you can't handle your own affairs. So you have to have somebody do it for you, even if you have a private attorney.
Man, that's crazy. I'm from California, in Tulare County area, the CPS will take all your kids, not just one.
Yeah. Definitely will.
Kayla's asking, did you complete everything they wanted? Also, did you show up to all the scheduled visits? You know, a lot of times, if a parent misses a visit or misses a document or an appointment or something, they'll use that against you as well.
Okay, so I'm gonna drop a couple nuggets, some gold nuggets that anybody going through CPS can use immediately. So first and foremost, anytime CPS shows up at your door, you want to call a sheriff immediately. You can even essentially call 911 and get your own officer there, and you make a report. So right then and there, you have an officer coming with the CPS agent. You call your own officer. Don't talk to them. don't communicate with them. If they ask you any questions, do not engage with them.
From what I understand, you don't even have to allow them into the house, into the apartment, unless
No,
there's a physical warrant. But they most of the
yes.
time, the officer with CPS is only there for their benefit. They're not there to drag you out and drag the kid out.
So essentially, the officer that's with them is there basically to protect them. Like that's their safety net. But what has happened is that these officers are in a position of being given false information that they feel like, oh, well, we're the authority figure and CPS says open up, so you got to open up. And now I'm the support, like I'm the backup. Where in fact, before it was, you know, if somebody comes on my property and I pull a gun out, that officer is there to protect the CPS, to say, hey, back up, because this family, you know, you're not going to mess with this family. You don't have to engage with them. You don't have to let them in. Have them provide a warrant, and make sure that that warrant is issued with a judge's signature. Chances are you're not going to get that. I mean, to be honest, none of the warrants that they issue are valid. None of them are. And the warrant that was issued for the protective custody warrant, it included a rubber stamp. It included a statement of probable cause, which had all lies in it. So you got to be careful with that. The immediate process next is that detention hearing. Now, here's the part that is a gold nugget for you right here. Because typically what happens is these CPS agents have already created all of these false accusations, and they have all these allegations against you. The first thing you want to do is akin to demur, which is you're going to strike basically every single allegation that they did, and you're going to support that to the best of your knowledge. But what that does in the court's viewpoint is you're challenging all of their allegations. You don't do this, it stands as true, because remember, the proceedings are governed by the preponderance of the evidence. So if you ever wondered why, and I know the families that have already gone through this, Manny, I'm not complaining about this, so don't take this the wrong way, but
Yep.
I just have a pair of boobs right in my face right there with Moxie just right there.
Oh, yeah, she's actually she's a registered nurse. Just, by the way, so when she's asking, she's actually interested in the actual facts about your story.
Oh no,
I get it.
Yeah, I didn't even read the question.
No, she was just asking what were the doctor's findings, if she may ask, because we can't involve. She's saying on her end, I forget what state she's in, they cannot involve CPS just that easily like that.
Well, see, in California, they have a CPS agent on call in the hospital. So, you know, it was within hours. It really was within hours. The first initial nurse that was taking the transfer, she's the one that called CPS immediately. And Journey's going to be 3. He's going to be 3 now in September, which is like next month.
When's the last time you saw Journey?
December of 2021.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Man, that's gotta hurt.
Yeah.
Social services gets money from the government to kidnap children. Don't find it odd that children who need to be removed get left.
Yeah. Well,
CPS is not a perfectly run machine. It's not it's not correct.
Well, you know what I've also discovered is there's a lot of personality behind each agency. Now, I took the initiative to go and speak with surrounding county CPS investigators and agents and federal funding operatives, because again, this has become more of a, like, I'm gonna figure this out. Like sooner or later, I'm gonna figure this out, and when I can figure it out for my family, I hope to give you information that could help other families. As I was saying about the Kent demur, is you're striking the allegations. So if you do that immediately, you have an opportunity to essentially put CPS in a position to provide more evidence or to provide something else to substantiate their allegations. And typically, if you have a situation where there is nothing, then you could be let go at that point. But the second you take an attorney, that chance just minimizes. It just drops significantly because they're a part of this scheme, this scam, and this fraud. They're part of it. And I know it's going to be hard for a lot of people to accept that.
So what month and year was that when you took him to the hospital that day?
All this happened in 2020. August of 2020 is when it started. Journey's case is currently pending in the appeal process. I finished writing my brief. I had to go through 2 appeal attorneys, and that took from December all the way up to July 15th. So July 15th, I submitted my opening brief for Journey's case, which that's still pending. I'm waiting for a response from the respondents. So we'll see how that goes.
And then Marley asks, is this what the baby looked like when he went to the hospital? But Jackie did respond to that, and she said that photo where he's on that little orange cart little thing that I flashed up here a little while ago, she said that was like literally a couple days before it happened.
Yeah. Anybody that would have seen him, you would have never even considered that there was anything wrong with him.
Which is this photo here, I believe she said was just before the incident.
Yeah. And it was funny because the doctor said there's no way he was sitting up. There was no way he was moving or anything.
Here, she's got another question here. How does a newborn child have profound brain damage attributed to his diet and lack of nutrition? Well, there wasn't, right? I mean,
no. I think Moxie was maybe considering that Genesis when she was taken, because she was only 4 days old. But there was nothing wrong with Genesis. They just took her because of what happened with Journey.
Like guilt by association, if you want to say.
Basically, that's like saying, you know what, I'm gonna take your car because I think you're gonna get into an accident. Yeah, they don't have that. Like that's ridiculous.
So what is his health right now?
I can't even answer that. I don't know. But I will say this though. So in our nation right now, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the drugs. Like what are some very negative drugs that are on the market right now? Not even on the market, but that are kind of being that there's a lot of worry about these types of drugs. I'm referencing fentanyl. Fentanyl is a drug that is like there's a war on fentanyl.
Yeah,
it's a very killer drug. And when I was looking through Journey's medical records, do you know he was administered fentanyl at least a dozen times within that first day or two?
What the heck?
Yes. And along with that, anti-seizure medicine, along with that, the last time we had contact and association of knowing what was happening with Journey, he was on 7 different medications. Now, in my research of his conditions that he was experiencing, if I break or roll an ankle, I'm not going to be getting up the next day and walking or running or jumping. it's going to take my body some time to recover and to heal. There's a process for healing. So let's just say that something did happen to Journey, because something did happen to Journey. His body wasn't going to get better overnight. It was going to take time. There was some damage for whatever causation it was, but his body was damaged, and it's going to take some time to recover. But here's the thing about Western medicine and allopathic medicine is that typically when you take medications, you're going to get worse and you're going to get worse. And it's actually, in fact, the medicine that is actually killing people, and it's not the condition that they're experiencing. So as I said, I hope his caregiver is taking care of him, which I really believe she is. And that's kind of where I leave it at this point, in time. And when we do get him back, whatever condition he's in, we're going to get him better. I mean, that's my perspective, and that's my viewpoints on the future.
And so when are the proceedings for Journey? Like, what is the time frame? Journey and then Genesis.
So we're currently going through the appeal process. They have 30 days to respond from July 15th. They have 30 to 45 days to respond, and then I will have a response to their response, and then we'll have oral arguments. And so that could probably be within the next 3 to 5 months without any continuances occurring. But I have been going down other avenues of procedure that can possibly assist us in this situation. And I don't want to speak too prematurely, but I have been associated with guys who have been trying to perfect this process that within the past month have done that. They have perfected a process that has completely changed the dynamics of the relationship between the government and the people. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that if you take an attorney, you're deemed a ward of the state. It means you're deemed incompetent. You're deemed a minor. You have no cognizance to handle your own affairs. But I've been to court, a lot of times. And I've gone through all proceedings in juvenile court, in traffic court, in family court, in criminal court, and also the appeal process now. And I point that out because I'm very keen to my surroundings and environment for the purpose of growth. I'm not going to be taking the same test and not learning from my mistakes. And so when I've gone through these proceedings, I'm learning and I'm adapting. And I've noticed something very similar in all these courts. It doesn't matter what you put in the record or what you try to argue. The relationship that they view you as is below them. And that's not how it should be. So I kept asking the same question. Why are these judges not listening to me? Why are they not acknowledging my constitutional rights? Why are they not acknowledging my constitutional protections? What's the purpose behind all of that? And this is where I said that behind closed doors, I'm working on something right now that I really feel might be, I'm not going to say the golden ticket, but this is going to lead to the golden pathway to restoring our rights entirely. Along with that is removing the minority disabilities that we all possess, that gives the government the perception that we're below them. And once we change our status and we're viewed as the creation above government, this is where you can request an Article 3 court. This is where you can go into equity. This is where the dynamics of the restoration of rights will occur, and this will be where any property that was taken from me or was removed from me, or any officer of the state or agency that has harmed me, is now susceptible to punitive damages, to loss damages, to all of the damages that these agencies cause. There's no authority figure above them. And I know Pamela expresses, you got to get on the phone with the AG, you got to get on the phone with OIG, you got to call your attorney general, you have to call the sheriff. I've gone down all those pathways. I've gone down all those pathways.
So I know you don't intend to get to this. We already hit this a little bit, and I know you don't want to delve into it. Marley's asking, so your mother is your mother against you and your wife having custody of the kids, generally speaking?
My mom is the only person on earth right now that believes in her heart that Jacqueline and I intentionally harmed our son, and that we had malice intentions on, basically, we were going to kill him. That's how she views it. And that's what, when she wakes up every single day, and the anger and the hostility that she keeps and that she has, the anger that she uses when she tries to reach out to me or text me, I think to myself, if she's acting this way, what is she thinking? And then not only am I thinking about that, I'm thinking about, damn, if I'm in her position, or if I'm thinking negatively about another person, does that person not realize that they're only hurting themselves? They're only putting poison in themselves. So if I'm sitting here and I'm angry and I'm thinking bad about another person, I'm thinking about that they're the worst thing and they've done this, and that's all happening in my own mind. I'm poisoning myself. And, you could only endure poison for so long. So, hey.
So this question, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. This question from Carly Ray, and I would say, would you say this is, I would say this is directed at your mother. Is this a fight for the kids or a personal vendetta?
That's a great question. I can comment on two ways about this. In this narrative, from my mom's perspective, she's a superhero. She's here. She's saving Journey's life. Journey was a victim. I got to save him. Now I got to take care of him, and I got to be the hero. And the people that hurt him, damn them to hell. That's the narrative that she plays in her mind, and that's visible. But that narrative is the same narrative that happened when my grandpa died. It's the same narrative that happened when her uncle died. It's the same narrative that happened when I was sick, when I was younger. It's the same narrative that my brother had when he was sick. So it's like she creates these stories and she just plays the role, and the people that are involved are just the characters in this storyline. So that's one side of it. And then the second side to it is, she's battling. I mean, everybody's battling their own demons, and there's a lot of trauma and pain surrounding this area that I think that taking my kids in has given her an opportunity to make amends for when we were kids, because me and my brother are only like 9 months apart. No, like a year, probably no. I was born, we're like a year apart, me and my brother. And so I look at Journey and Genesis, they're a year apart, and they're both with my mom. And my mom has to take care of them fully. And she's in the same position that she was in 35 years ago with me and my brother. So, our Creator has ways of teaching us things. And we work in harmony with him with free will to bring on situations in our life that are going to help us grow. So I don't take this seriously. I mean, I take it seriously on what I'm doing, but I'm not emotionally going to lose sleep over what's happening. I just look at it as, hey, you know what? I'm in battle. What happens, what goes on, I got to just deal with it. There's going to be time for peace and harmony afterwards. So I just take it day by day at this point.
Okay. Definitely. Let's do some more of these. There are comments, there are questions. Apparently Moxie did not get answered what she was looking for, and there were so many comments and questions put up there, I already forgot what her main point was. So I just asked her to, my apologies, but just to ask it again. Some people are starting to feel like maybe you don't want to answer something, or there's something missing, and they're trying to piece it. I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything like that, but I want them to know that you are addressing that question.
Yeah, for sure.
And if there's something that you don't want to get into, because obviously this is all still pending, you know, if there's something that you can or whatever, just come out and say it, you know.
I mean, we haven't really touched on anything that I don't feel comfortable talking about. I mean, some of the details, I mean, if I get specific questions, I mean, I don't mind answering them, but as far as the narrative of, I'm just kind of going based off of the surface level.
Let's see. Growing up, let's see, sometimes medications. So do you and your wife have supervised visits through the court? So the reason you have not seen Journey is why? Why is that?
The reason we have not seen Journey is because technically our parental rights have been terminated, which means that he's basically not our kid anymore. But that's not finalized for 3 years. So he's in lingo right now. He's like in the gray area. And I point this out too because this does have relevance, but at the same time, it opens up a different rabbit hole, which is the birth certificate and social security number. We had home births for both of them. So we never registered them with the state. So there's no birth certificate, there's no social security number. So essentially, that means that the state cannot claim this property. They can claim all of us as property because they have a legal fictitious creation through the birth certificate and social security number that attaches to the live living soul that we all are. So when you look at your birth certificate and you look at your social security number and you look at your docket name and court cases, if you look at your credit card or your driver's license, all upper caps. Your name is in all upper caps. And that's because the state creates a legal fictitious person at that point. So in this case with Journey and Genesis, they never had those documents. So my as of late, my research has been on tracking down the funding. So I've been going to these agencies and I'm like, hey, I got to know how are you paying for all of this? How are you accessing federal funds and state funds and grant and county income for kids that don't even have the ability to access these privileges? So I can't just go to Social Security number and say, hey, give me money because I need it. They're going to say, no, I need to see your driver's license. I'm going to need to see some identification. I'm going to need to see. So how are these counties through these agencies accessing the funds without these proper documentations? So that's where I've been lately trying to figure this out. But again, in due time.
So the question earlier about was this about your child, your kids, or was it a vendetta? So we answered it as if that question were directed to your mom. But what about you? Is this, I mean, they're asking, is this really about your kids or is it more personal now and just a thing against your mom?
For me, like for me.
Oh, yeah, she did say to him. It was a question by Carly. Remember the one that said, is this about the children or is it about a vendetta?
No, definitely not a vendetta. I mean, even till today, and I don't mean to put Jackie on the spot, but you know, my mom is my mom. That's not her mom. So all that my mom has been doing, it's shaped. It's taken a lot of shape to really teach you how to be patient and to really teach you how to not have anger or hate for another person, even if they're harming you. So we're getting a heavy dose of that lesson right now. But for me, because it's my own mom, I can't really. I mean, she in her mind, in her heart, she thinks that she's doing something productive, that she's really helping. But she was never around Journey before all of this. She never saw him. She never changed his diaper. She never fed him. He never spent the night with her. She didn't have that relationship with Journey his whole all the way up to 10 months. She didn't have that opportunity to have that relationship with Journey. So for her to just kind of attack us and go based off what she thinks, even though she don't have no firsthand knowledge of anything, that did hurt. But what's happening now, again, like I said, if you're consuming poison, you're going to eventually kill yourself. You're going to hurt yourself. So I want nothing to do with that. I'm going to send my love and good intentions regardless. I don't care who's harmed me in the past. I'm not going to let anybody drag me down that level of existence. I won't let that happen.
So then Carly added to the comment, it was not against his mom. She meant against the government. Like, is this a vendetta against the government? Which it sounds like you could actually build up some resentment, towards the system, right? And I'm sure that's what happened. What was happening?
In Orange County, we had the worst social workers. Okay, we had the worst social workers. I had a bad experience with the judges, like just dicks, like just ones that were just rude and obnoxious and just down talked me and made me think that I was below, like scum. And I dealt with that all in Orange County. So I dealt with that for a whole year, basically. But when I got to Tulare County, it was different. There was a lot more mutual respect. Even though they were in the wrong, I found out and I realized that these people they just been taught incorrectly. They've been given instructions on what to do, but they're not at the level that's calling the shots and that are making these determining factors in these families' lives. These are just the people that they're the forerunners. They're the ones that say, hey, go do this, go pick this family up, go write this report, bring it back to me so I can stamp it or I can sign up for it. So I kind of, I don't necessarily have a personal vendetta for any of the people involved. Don't get me wrong. When this is all said and done, all of them will have to repent and they'll have to pay for what they've done. I know I can name every single one of them by their first and last name that have been involved in this case, from the judge to the social worker to the investigator to the CASA workers to everybody. And when this is all said and done and I got both my kids back, I've learned how to do a lot of stuff to go on the offensive, and I'm gonna go after every single one of them. And not because I hate them or I want to harm them, but because, hey, you harm my family, you got to pay for your sins. And I just look at it like that. Let God deal with the end of it.
Yeah, and that's a very, very reasonable attitude to take. Carly's asking, do you have anyone helping you with the legal side of things? Any programs out there, people, professionals at all at this point?
As I mentioned, I have a team of guys that I associate with, and these guys have different areas of law that they're basically experts on, and I kind of just I got so used to being a fly on the wall. I would just hop on conversations and calls and conference calls and just listen and learn and learn and learn. Then I got to a point where I'm like, okay, now I got to apply it. Now I got to do my own research. Now I'm looking up different laws and figuring it out for myself. And so, that's kind of been my mindset for now. But as far as attorneys, no. As far as anything regarding, self-help or any of those agencies, no, none of that stuff.
So Moxie's asked, this is a question she was asking. Ask him why Journey's health improved during the 3-month safety plan, if that happened, and then declined when it was no longer required. What does he attribute that to?
Well, ask him why Journey's health improved during the 3-month safety plan and then declined when it was no longer required. What does he attribute that to? So this person is saying why Journey's health improved during the 3-month safety plan and then declined when it was no longer required. So the first thing that I would ask this random person that didn't see my son or has no insight to his health, was not one of the doctors that saw him, was not someone that engaged with him every single day. Those questions are questions that we've been asked thousands of times at this point, 2 years into this, because again, they're basing everything off of a standard baby. So a standard baby is getting vaccinated before they're even moving their legs. A standard baby is being fed formula. A standard baby is being fed every 4 hours. A standard baby is, they have specific practices of lifestyle that the more you start to learn about health, you realize these are bad habits to form. A person shouldn't be constantly eating. A person shouldn't be, getting all these toxic heavy metal vaccinations put inside of them. So when someone says something like this, a 3-month safety plan. So
was there a 3-month safety? Was there anything like that at all?
Exactly. So that's a great point. So at 3 months, he was already being seen by a primary physician every single month. And that's all a track record available for anybody to see. Now, the problem that, and I'm not even going to say it was a problem, but the thing that has been the issue at hand was that he was, according to, again, going back to the growth charts, he wasn't a heavy baby. And so if a baby weighs 10 pounds, but they're supposed to weigh 12 pounds, that puts him, now he's in the lower percentile of development. Based off of 2 pounds. It's like me saying, okay, well, this person's only 5'3" and I'm 6'1", so that person, there's something wrong with him. Like, how stupid does that even sound? It doesn't make any sense. But again, these indoctrined, medicine and nutrition and information that are provided to these doctors, they don't know any better. So I'm not even going to hold it against them. But anybody that actually saw Journey, and there was a handful of people that actually, and clients of mine and clients of our gym that saw him, every day. They no one could sit here and say, oh, well, he, that was a deprived kid, or, there was something wrong with him or anything of that nature.
Yep. This is something that obviously is not going to be resolved in the next few days, but it's going to take a few months. When do you go back to court for Genesis?
For Genesis, I believe we're going back in the beginning of September. But and it's actually funny. Today I learned something today. Today I learned something that I kind of feel that this was a missing piece to the puzzle. Like to the puzzle that I've been trying to formulate has been to understand how to operate in these administrative tribunals and these quote unquote courts. And because of that, like I mentioned, I was going to all these court hearings and these judges are not listening to anything that I'm saying. But I want to figure out how to get to that point where they're gonna listen. You got to make them listen, and I'm pretty confident moving forward. So I'm taking it day by day. I can't really predict or say anything. I know the end. You know, there's a great saying that it said that this gentleman says. He says, think of the wish fulfilled. So if I look at my scenario of story, this is a book, right? And we're in chapter 4. I'm going to stop in chapter 4 and I'm going to go to the last chapter of the book. And I'm going to just read the last chapter of the book every single day. And in the last chapter of the book, I get my kids back. The last chapter of the book, the settlements for all the lawsuits are filed against all these people. All the people that were involved, they're paying for what they've done. And as I said, we're away in the sunset somewhere, and I get to watch my family grow, and I get to become a stronger man and individual that has learned and grown from all of this. And I live in that. So every day, that's what I think about. Whether it takes a day, a year, 2 years, or 3 years, I don't really care. I'm living in that end every single day, regardless of what I go through on a day-to-day basis.
Gotcha. Vaccinations. Did the baby have vaccinations? Was that an issue at all?
Well, that's a great point, because that also ties in the hospital. So what happened was CPS took over, and CPS says vaccinate them. So they do. They just listen. So what happens? Let's consider this. What happens when all of this finally gets revealed to be a big sham? All of this gets to see that all of this was unconstitutional and unlawful. Who's liable for all of this? For everything that has happened, every single person involved is liable. And this is the part where, oh man, I cannot wait for the day for all the people that were involved. And I'm not talking about the ones that were just a part of it. I'm talking about the ones that were degrading us as parents, the ones that were writing the reports, the ones that are saying the most heinous things. Those are the people. I want to walk right up to them with a big bouquet of flowers and a card that says, thank you for this experience. And I just want to see their face when they know that they were wrong and they partaked in criminal activities. And, the most important thing for me at the end of all of this is the condition my baby's in, Journey. It doesn't matter, because whatever condition that he's in, he's gonna recover from, regardless.
Another question. I don't know how relevant this is or not. Was there any accusation on your part of this? Were you accused of doing drugs, or is that part of this these complaints at all?
When I read this, for some reason, the only thing that I could think about was that Dave Chappelle episode with Rick James, where Rick James is like, cocaine's one hell of a drug. But no, I've never partaked in alcohol or drugs. But we were never accused of doing any of that, and I wouldn't, again, like that was never my cup of tea.
Alrighty, well, I'm sure not everyone got their answer or was happy with it, for that matter. Those are two different things there.
There's a question from Kathy Ann Baxter. Address that, please.
This one here, he seems more interested in the battle than in proving himself right than the actual kids. That's just based on all his I this and I that and how he's going to change everything.
He just seems more interested in the battle and proving himself right than the actual kids. That's just based on all his I this and I that. Well, the thing to consider about what this person is saying is that we're kind of like in an interview position right now where you're asking about my story and my family. So the I, when I say I, it's me and my family. So how I apologize that my verbiage is not correct to your standards, but the battle of proving myself right. Well, if you really take a open ear view and listen to what's actually happening, you realize it's all interconnected. And the battle that's involved has to do with the fact that it's ripped our kids from us unlawfully, with no evidence, with nothing to prove that we did anything wrong. And on top of that, they're using an administrative process that is not aligned with proper due process of law. Now, what that means is that if a person is to be deprived of life, liberty, or property, you have to go through a process, a judicial process that is aligned with how our government is supposed to be established. But then you realize that these processes that these families are being dragged through are not a judicial process, and you're not receiving due process of law. So going back to the battle and proving myself, well, what do I got to prove to anybody? I don't care what this person thinks of me or what another person feels about me or towards me. It doesn't affect me. You can have the most positive thoughts about me and you could have the most heinous thoughts about me. It makes no difference. At the end of the day, as I said, the battle is happening, whether I want it to happen or not. I'm not going to sit back and just take it and be submissive and not do nothing about it. I'm going to fight. I'm going to do all the research I can to fight for my family. Now, when it's all said and done, I win. So, you can't win unless you're competing. So again, I don't really know if this is like a serious question or is this just a troll? I don't
Because
really know.
the obviously there's a fight, and the ultimate victory is getting your children back, right?
Absolutely.
And these are things that you have to do. And since we're talking to you, of course, it's going to be I got to do this, or I didn't do that, or I didn't know this, or I learned this. I mean, that's
Correct.
why there's eyes. This I know a lot of people when they say, "Oh, he's just talking about himself." It's like, and sometimes there's a context for that.
Correct.
But in this case, I mean, he's the one. He's acting as their own attorney. So, I'll defend you in that way. Where I'm going to say, of course, it's about him. He's the one fighting. And of course, he's going to address himself. If it was the attorney there, he'd be saying, "Well, we're doing this for my client. We're doing this for my client, and we're trying to do this." And
yeah, great point. Great point to point out right there. And then also too, aligned with that is the fact that if you really stop to consider that I'm giving an experience that hopefully someone else can take this and it gives them confidence or it gives them insight, or it says, I could resonate with that, or that makes sense, and it builds on wherever that person's at.
Yeah, everything you're going through, hopefully it can get fine-tuned down the line. You had these experiences, and you can fine tune them. And the next person that comes along who has got this problem, you can say, look at this handbook right here. This is what you got to do.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I've done with the others that I've looked into and that I have kind of picked up information from and tried to learn from. But I cannot stress enough the importance that everybody has an individual battle. It's everybody has a very individual battle. We may be going through the same scenario. We may be getting our kids taken away. We may be going through these proceedings of being accused of all these certain allegations, and everybody's different. But at the end of the day, it's very individual.
Yeah, and Moxie does bring up a good point. And again, these are things that you're going to be learning. And as you're being interviewed, she says that he needs to learn how to answer questions because the way he does it now is very misleading. I would say misleading, but maybe not as direct or, like kind of like get to the point with the answers. And,
Correct.
And these are things that you'll learn as well.
Well,
not everybody's good at answering questions that are being interviewed.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the questions I have to really articulate how much to really disclose. So that's why sometimes, like some of the questions that were being asked, I'm very hesitant to really give it all out. There's a sense of protection that's still applied here, where I'm not saying that we've enclosed ourselves in our situation, but at the same time, as you can see, if we start talking about our situation, there's a lot of triggers. There's a lot of triggers that come up. So nothing in our situation is built on lies or built on anything of a malice nature or anything of that sort. So, I mean, I stand with that truth, and at the end of the day, the only person that could really judge any of us is our Creator, and I'm okay with that. I know that we live in a life that is aligned with balance and harmony, and I don't want to put harm or negative thoughts on anybody else, or I'm not looking to bring down or hurt anybody. So I'm okay with that, regardless of what anybody says, thinks, or feels.
And then Kathy Ann Baxter added, nope, I'm not a troll. I'm real. I'm a person who wrongly had accusations from public schools last year and was scared to death CPS would take my child just because it was a school making the accusation. So nothing sinister, in the question that she was asking of you.
Okay, well, I mean, I appreciate her at least, saying that and expressing, her a little bit of her story, and I hope everything works out. But as I said, we are in similar battles. We're just in different areas of battles. But one thing that I cannot stress this more enough, I cannot stress this enough, is that they built everything around fear.
Yeah.
Fear is the secret weapon that they prey on. That's what they want. They want you to move in fear. Because in reality, there's the two strongest emotions are love and fear. Everything that is based off of fear is hate, anger, anxiety, stress, jealousy, etc., etc. And love is the exact opposite. Love is happiness, success, abundance, joy, all of those positive emotions.
Yep.
And so if you start operating in fear, everything becomes gray, everything becomes cloudy, and you just got to be very careful with that.
I love this picture of Journey, by the way. That's such a cute freaking picture. I can't stand it. So the doctor, okay, is there any chance of these reports that were not allowed to be included? I mean, are you going to be able to present those at all in the future?
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Okay.
I definitely know at this point, the steps and procedures that are necessary to get this into admissible evidence, and we shouldn't have a problem going on to the next trial. I really don't see that happening.
Yeah, Kathy, I'm scared to even have her back in school this year, but I'm crossing my T's and dotting my I's with all her doctors before. In our case, however, it was a school who did us wrong, not TPS. Oh man, that's tough too. My heart goes out to the family. I'm not a people person, so to prove myself to get my kids back would be a mess. Moxie, hey, I can respect that, and I'm sure it's hard, but if you want to represent yourself, they're a lot meaner than me. Yeah, I bet they can be vicious. The legal system.
Well, you know what? The attorneys, this is very intriguing to me. Is these attorneys, although the perception of them is it's supposed to be viewed very, very high, I'm not going to sit here and say that these guys are way up there and untouchable. I won't say that. I will not say that. And I've been through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 prosecutors, 6 different prosecutors. And again, I've only had a couple years of experience dealing with this type of information and stuff. I'm only going to say 6 to maybe 9 months of studying procedure and the rules of evidence, the juvenile code, as far as conducting yourself in court, learning how to cross-examine, learning how to do objections, all of those necessity assets that an attorney has to kind of master.
Yeah.
Those things, those are, everybody could do them. That's the emphasis that I feel that will be very beneficial for people who listen to this at a future time, is that take that initiative for yourself. If you're dealing with CPS, why are you going to want somebody else to fight your fight?
True. And I kind of feel like you're, remember the movie My Cousin Vinny? He went into to represent his nephew, but he didn't know the procedures, and that's what was messing him up early on. Yeah. And then as he went through the process, and then he read the book finally, or started reading it, then he started picking up on. And once he got the procedures down, oh man, forget about it. There was no stopping him. So you're our cousin Vinny right now. So
yeah, I'll take it. I'm just a little taller.
So the question was okay, when is court? I guess I didn't get a definitive answer. You said September is for Journey, or October?
Okay, so those, see, like that right there, but he doesn't answer the questions you're asking him about a court date. So, Linnea, I don't mean, I say September, around September. Okay, so I say it like that. I don't really know the exact date, to be like off the top of my head. I really don't. So I just, September 1st. Okay. I mean, that's for Genesis case. Journey's case is an appeal right now. There is no current court date on schedule as of yet. We got to go through response and reply, that process. So, right now we're just in a limbo. It's our time to kind of, sharpen our axes, sharpen our swords, and prepare. And that's kind of what we're doing right now.
All right, I think we've taken this. We're already at the 2-hour mark, and we did cover a lot of ground. Hopefully, you'll have some good news. Now, is it possible in that September date that you can have Genesis back with you?
Yeah, that's. I cannot see them. There's no way. There's no way that we go through a jurisdictional hearing that they're going to be able to keep her. There's no way. So I'm very confident about that. That's why I kind of feel that the matter has been continued, because they're not going to get around that. They really won't. So I'm not really too concerned about Genesis right now. It's just she's at 4 days old. Come on, like really think about that. if you have a baby that's 4 days old that's ripped from you,
Yeah.
like that just
Gotcha.
hits different. That just
Right.
hits different
Okay.
because
Can't
you see the I'm going to be hesitant on saying the evil, but you see the dark forces that are around that thought process to think that that's okay in any way, shape, or form. There's nothing, there's no godly principles of love that are applied to just taking a helpless, defenseless little bundle of joy at 4 days old. So, I mean,
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can get a some good news update in September. You have Genesis back with you, and we'd love to hear how that went. You know, we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, definitely. I want to thank you as well, and I know that when this is all said and done, that it's going to be a great privilege to come on your show, and knowing that we have two supporting previous interactions that
Yep.
will lead up to this, and the people that will watch the next episode where we have the babies with us, they can go back and see that the stuff that we were talking about today, how much relevance it had. So I look forward to that day.
Yep, and these are all your kids. This picture, this is everyone except Genesis. Is that correct? In this photo here. Oh, did I lose him? Oh, I guess we lost him. But that was a family there, except I'm pretty sure except with baby Genesis. This is something we're definitely gonna follow up on. And oh, his phone died. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, we just need it back just for a minute, just to wrap up. All your questions are appreciated. I know some of the frustration and some of the responses were not either direct or not to your liking, or everybody can use some practice going through this. And I can't even imagine what the questioning would be like in trial, where they will grill you, if you don't answer correctly or to their liking or whatever the case may be. Here we go. We're just getting back to wrap up, and we can say goodnight. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, sorry, his phone died, so I jumped in to finish off for him. What was the question?
No, we're just saying, we look forward to you guys coming back, and hopefully with the good news. And I was just addressing the crowd that even though they were asking some tough stuff, that they weren't necessarily being, nasty. I don't think they just were trying to get some answers.
No, yeah, it's understandable. And again, this is a very sensitive subject for me, especially because I'm a mom, and so I always let Johnny talk because I get emotional. Because these are my babies, but I have to get over it because I have to let my voice be heard, and I have to we have to raise awareness, and that's why we share a story. We don't share a story for attention or anything like that. We just share it so that people know that this is really happening, and it affects lots of people. So not just because CPS is involved in your life, it doesn't mean, okay, you did something wrong. Yes, that's what I believe back in the days. Yeah. But until it happened to my family, it's like, and don't get me wrong, at the beginning, I believed everything that the doctors were saying. It's like, oh my gosh, I did this to my child. How could I have done this? Just because reading the reports and reading everything that they provide to you, it's really hard. So I had to step back and be like, okay, hang on here. Something's not right here. So that's when we started piecing everything together, and it's like, okay, this is not. I know because my child lives with me, and I know what I fed him, and I know that I know what I did. So yeah, that's how everything made sense. So again, we're only sharing our story just for awareness, not for attention, just for awareness to make everybody aware of what's happening and
Yeah.
all over the country, not just in California.
Yeah, and like I said, hopefully after all this is said and done, Johnny's got you. Both of you have got. You can make kind of a little generic handbook. Like, hey, if you're having this problem, or if you find yourself in this position, this is what you're going to have to know right here. Take a look
Yes.
at this, and this can help you or help anybody, get through something like this.
Yes, and then yes, and Johnny has said that once he figures out how to get our kids out of CPS, then of course he's going to help everybody,
Yeah.
as much people as he can, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, listen, I appreciate you guys spending a couple hours and getting us up to speed. And those who don't know the story, I'm going to post the first interview right after we're offline here. And then we look forward to talking to you again in September, hopefully with some good news. And you've got
Yes, let's hope so.
maybe Genesis there. We would love to talk to you then as well.
Okay, we'll do.
And
Thanks,
then,
guys.
talk
Night.
more about your experience, what happened with all that. Again, just to add a little more to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much for your time, Jackie, and Johnny. You too.
Thank you.
All right, Jackie. You guys have a good night.
Good night. Bye, guys.
All right, that was Jackie Navarro and Johnny. If some of your things still didn't get answered, still put them in the comments, and I'll ask Jackie and Johnny to go in there and address some of that. I will post a video to the first interview. I'll do that as soon as we get offline here. And I can't even imagine somebody taking my kid away from me. I cannot. I mean, I can't even think about it. I can't. Yeah, I'm not getting that. I can't. The feelings, I can't even comprehend what that would feel like to be accused of something without any evidence or research or evidence, and then still be accused of something. Just like anything else, to some people that are wrongly accused. Do I think they should have both their kids back? From everything I gather, they seem like normal people just because they're vegan. I don't think their kids were lacking of anything. I think it makes perfect sense. Again, just going by what I heard tonight, right? Just perfect sense that, what do they call it? The asphyxiation. And, I mean, that's plausible, isn't it? I don't know. Nothing about speaking with them this time and the first time alarms me that they're not good parents and that they shouldn't have their kids back. They raise other kids. They're fully grown and well adjusted, and they're fine. No issues there at all. So there's probably more to the story with his mom and the issues that she has. Maybe she's not a fan of the vegan lifestyle, or who knows. There could be more of an issue there, and maybe it's something, right now is not the time to get into it, but eventually we'll see if we can dig a little deeper into that once things are settled a little more and it's safer to talk about that. Yeah, being vegan is legal. It is, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's not for everybody. It can be for everybody, but I think people that are vegan are very, very disciplined. And man, I don't think I could do that. I'll say, yeah, they're better than me right now, because I don't think I could be that disciplined. My friend Abel, who sometimes guest hosts with me, sometimes his wife is vegan and he's not. He's a carnivore, right? He's always cooking out, making pizzas at midnight, cooking out on the grill, steaks. This is Texas. People like their steak. People like their barbecue. And I don't know how he does it. So it's not for everybody. And I don't judge at all. I have changed my diet, but I can't say I've gone even vegetarian. and we've gotten into this before. This program that I saw. I'm talking from a documentary, which is called "What the Health." Don't eat meat. Don't drink milk. Meat is not for us. Milk is not for us. And I truly believe that. I haven't had a glass of milk since then. And I mean that. Meat affects your body, inflammation, immediately, as soon as you start eating it. I mean, at the dinner table or lunch table, you start eating meat, it swells components of your body. I'm not going to pretend to know which ones those are, but I imagine, joints and stuff. But we were not meant to eat meat. The humans were not meant to eat meat. And I keep giving the example. I mean, look at a gorilla. Look how big and muscle bound a gorilla is. And all they eat are greens. They don't eat meat. Greens and vegetables, and fruits. So, there's got to be some truth to Mother Nature, right? Got to be. So, alrighty. I am hungry, actually, so I think I'm going to go get me something to eat. Talking about food now. It'll be light. I know it's going to be light. I promise. Thank you for spending your Friday evening. Hopefully you enjoyed this program. It's a very interesting case. We're going to have other, real life stories and real people and their stories coming up in the next week. A lot of cool stuff. I appreciate all your comments and your feedback. Everybody, Moxie included. Everybody's just trying to get some answers, and I get it. Totally get it. Victoria, thank you so much for the super bubble or whatever that thing is called. I don't even know what it's called yet. But thank you for that. Any questions? Like I said, put them in the comments, and we'll see if we can get Jackie and Johnny to try to answer whatever was not responded to here in this program. Should be back tomorrow night. We'll do something with Bam. He had to take off. He had a situation at home. Nothing urgent. But we wanted to come back. We wanted to talk afterwards also. There was some stuff in the news going on we wanted to talk about. Anne Heche. Don't know if she's actually passed away or since she's brain dead, the family considers her gone. I know there's a lot of news outlets that always want to be the first ones to report. Well, somebody's dead. Somebody died. That was first. I reported it. Somebody died. So those reports are going out there that she died. She passed away. From what I heard last, there was no brain activity and that she was not going to make it. And I know they were trying to prepare her to donate some of the organs to anyone where it may help. So I'll see what goes on with that overnight. Maybe there'll be an official announcement. So we'll see what happens with that and whatever other news comes out over the weekend. Thank you all for hanging out with me on a Friday night. It's 11:15 Central Time. Everybody have a great weekend, but I'll probably see you tomorrow night. Everyone, thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Don't forget, give my page on YouTube, subscribe, please. Manny Behind the Mic, that's MIC. And on Facebook, same thing, at Manny Behind the Mic. Give me a follow there if you would. And I appreciate it. I appreciate you all. I'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. Have a good night, everyone.